Our next presentation is on digital twins from Jenny Carlstedt from the Research Institute of Sweden. And she's come to talk to us about interoperability and common standards for the development of digital twins. I'm sure this will be of interest to a lot of people in the room. Thank you very much, Jenny.
Hej, ska jag säga.
It's great to be here and talk to you about the work that we have been doing with regards to building a network for all the stakeholders in Sweden to work with digital twins. And hopefully some of the questions that we talked about earlier, how to connect the local digital twins with the national digital twins, will be something that we in the future will have a better answer to how it's done. So my name is Jenny Carlstedt, and as you said, I work at the Research Institute of Sweden. I have also been a project manager of a project with the aim to establish this national hub for digital twins. We know that there are similar networks around Europe that have already started working in this way, but in Sweden we lack relevant network that actually brings all the different stakeholders together. And as you know, I mean, digital twins is a matter of a lot of different disciplines that need to come together. So we think that in order to achieve the national digital twins, we need a network to coordinate all the different investments and the development that's being done. The project has been ongoing for 2 years and is just about to finish. We have had 19 partners working in the project, but we have also from the beginning had an open agenda and invited everyone that wants to join in order to collect the bigger picture of what are the needs with regards to digital twins. The expected results when we now are near the end of the project is that we will have a network in place, an organization with a long-term funding model in place. There should be an established network, and I would say that there is today. We've also produced a roadmap and a vision for how Sweden should work with digital twins the coming 20 years. And 20 years, that's quite hard to set a vision for what's going to happen the coming 20 years. So what we've done is actually to break it down into smaller parts in the roadmap. So we look at 5 years ahead. What do we need in place in 5 years? What do we need in place in 10 years, etc. And there's also a website which we created where you can post information and articles about digital twin development in Sweden and share best practice, etc. The drivers of the hub from the beginning, I mean, it's been a lot of voices in Sweden for a lot of years talking about the need of an information framework for digital twins. And this was one of the main drivers when this project started. We need to come together to make this happen. Of course, we also know that we work in a bigger context, so we also need to know what's happening in the European Union with regards to standards and information and development, and make sure that the local digital twins that we build in the municipalities in Sweden will be scalable to a national digital twin, which will be in turn scalable to the European digital twin, etc. And we need the network in place to also be able to look into what's coming from the EU and how should we relate to it, and how can our municipalities work with the tools and the directives that come from the European nation. And also, of course, contribute to sustainability growth of our societies. When it comes to the mission, I mean, I'm sure that you all can relate to the development historically, and the legacy that we have today is that all the data and all the technical tools that we ever developed has been developed in order to meet specific needs. So we have been working quite a lot in silos. We have developed the applications and the tools needed to solve our specific problem, rather than taking the big ecosystem in account. And in order to do this, we need to make sure that the data is shareable, that the technical platforms actually can use the same data, and that we can share data. But we also need to work a lot more cross-sectorally in order for this to happen. So with the result from the project, I mean, already from the beginning, it's really clear that digital twin doesn't only, it's not only a technical question. I mean, the data and the technical platforms are a big part of the digital twins, obviously. But if we cannot make sure that we have the processes and the governance in order to coordinate our data, it's not going to happen. And if we don't have the use cases that actually create benefits for the users, it's not going to happen either. So it's quite a complex world to try to build, to connect everything. There's a lot of stakeholders involved in the urban planning process and the urban planning sector. And all these stakeholders, they have their different needs and the different use cases for a digital twin. So how do we make sure that the data that's underneath, that's feeding the digital twins, actually provide benefits for all of these different stakeholders? That's sort of the, when we understand that, that's when the digital twin will fly. And if this wasn't complex enough, if you break it up into smaller pieces, you will see that there's not just one digital twin platform. There are several different platforms. They are historically different, based on different technical platforms, but there's also a lot of different applications and a lot of different data that has been used for different, even within the same organization. And to complex it even more, there's all these different use cases that we want to use the digital twins for. And historically, we have, as I said, developed everything in silos. This means that if we want to use the digital twin in order to build our sustainable society, which is sort of what we have on the right side here, where everything works together and coordinates in order to make a good place to live and work in for the people that work in it. We have to know what we have today. And this is a picture that we have borrowed from the German initiative Connected Urban Twins. I'm sure you've seen it, where they talk about digital twins as building blocks. And historically, this is how our applications have looked. Each application, no matter what you want to do with it, contains a lot of different data sets and building blocks. So you got the geospatial data in the base, and then you have your business data on top of that. You have different tools for analysis and simulations, and then you have the interface, which we interact with the technical solution and the data. And historically, there's been, I mean, if you work with a detailed planning in a municipality, you've had this system in place and worked with it. And each system has been quite locked in. So what we want to do is to start breaking up these digital twins into building blocks and make sure that we can, by doing that, reuse the information. So if we look at the geospatial data, for instance, it can feed a lot of different digital twins. And we believe that, I mean, as I said before, there's not one digital twin, there's many different digital twins. But we need to make sure that each and every one of them are actually built on the same data. And that when we can accomplish this, that we can build the ecosystem that we need to build and the understanding and the knowledge in order to drive the sustainable cities forward. It does look really easy when you put it up like this, doesn't it? But it's a lot more complex when you start digging into it. And there are a lot of challenges. And if there's anything you want to say to summarize the different challenges we have, it is what I've been saying throughout my talk so far. It's because we have a legacy. We have historically not worked with data as an ecosystem. We have worked with data and technical platforms in silos. So our challenges is definitely a lack of standards in common infrastructure to solve this, but it's also just the knowledge and an understanding on how to share data. I mean, we talked about it here before with Gothenburg, the city of Gothenburg asking if the road networks from the transport authority can be used in the city as well, if we can scale up the digital twins in Gothenburg to the national scale. We need to understand what that requires. And standard and infrastructure is one of the pieces that we need to get in place, quite an important one. But we also need to get the people on board, to get our processes in place so that we can work with the data in this way. And the knowledge that we need to have in order to build these infrastructures and the ecosystems they want to build. And today, at least in Sweden, we do have a problem when it comes to financing the upscaling and the building of these digital twins, because digitalization in Sweden is a lot today funded by projects. The one I'm presenting now is one of them, and they have an end date. And what happens with all the good things that we invent along the way? How can we make sure that they are actually used and put into everyday life, and also with the finance funding for and maintenance and making sure that they actually become live data. So what we see needs to happen. There's a lot of things that need to be in place, and for one, we need to start to build a national infrastructure for digital twins. And in Sweden today, we do have a lot of things in place with the government's assignments to build a digital urban planning process. We have a base for a technical infrastructure in place where we can share data and we can start to standardize data sets, or at least make them comparable. And we have started with this work, like information per information. So we started with detailed plans for each municipality. And in Sweden, we do have 290 municipalities. And the first step is to make sure that every detailed plan is made in the sort of same way and delivered in with the same sort of structure. That makes them comparable. And we can also add them up and show them on a national scale. But in order to do this, the technical infrastructure is just a small part to be able to share it. We need to make sure that all the regulations are in place, and all the, as I said before, processes, and to get everyone on board. And agreeing on standards and frameworks is sort of the first step. That's where we can start to talk about, okay, what are the different use cases for each and every of these data sets? And how do we need to structure the data in order to make sure that these benefits can actually be provided? So common standards and interoperability are sort of the main key in order to make this happen, to be able to scale the digital twins. And in order to make that happen, we also need to strengthen our governance and collaborations. We need to understand each other's needs, and we need to make sure that each organization see the benefits of working towards the scalability of the twins. And the last, which is also one of the most important, we need to make sure there's an investment in the long-term funding of this. As I said before, we do drive a lot of things through projects, and we do great things when we do, but we create a lot of things that needs to be taken care of and make sure that we can actually get the benefits out of it that we need. And in order to do that, we need to make sure we have the funding to do that. And if you are interested to learning more about our project, we do have a project site called digitobiz.se. It's in Swedish, most of it. Some parts are in English, but I'm sure you can translate it somehow. And on this page, we share a lot of the knowledge from the project And there's also a lot of information about other ongoing projects in Sweden with regards to digital twins. Yep, that's me.
Thanks very much. I think this might prompt a bit of discussion. This one. Having a look at the slides and hear you speak, I think there's a lot of stuff in there that we've seen in the UK.
Yep.
I really like the emphasis on governance and use cases, because if you don't have any kind of governance, or you don't tell people why you want to use it, then the thing will start to flounder.
Yep.
And I was also interested in your sort of the wider architecture issue with talking about platforms. In the UK, we're moving away from this platform type thing and having federated data sets. So I don't know whether that was part of your thinking as well, where those data sets that are governed and they're managed quality in situ, but you've got a federated structure where those data sets are accessed for. And that might be a dozen attributes in the future, or it might be an entire data set.
Yeah.
And I also like the emphasis on people, because ultimately the thing doesn't work without people or indeed knowledge.
Yep.
So yeah, no, there's my head was ringing when I was listening to that. There's also very similar stuff that we see in the UK.
Yep.
Does anybody have a question for Jenny at all?
Thank you for your presentation. Yeah, it was very impressive. Yeah. Just I'm wondering if you finished your project, yeah, then related to the twin platform, that you have planned to release on the open source, yeah, tools or the software development kit for the third party developer.
Yes. With regards to, I mean, it's partly answering your comments as well. At the end of this project, we do have the vision and the roadmap for the way forward. And we can definitely see a way forward that involves federating data sets and working with open source tools and making sure that data is stored in open formats, etc. At the same time, we do understand that we're in a situation today where it's going to take time to fully implement it. We have a lot of technical platforms still in place, and with the agreements running for a couple of years with the different organizations. So we need to make sure that we move towards open standards and open source solutions and federated data sets as well. But we need to make it step by step to make sure that we can work with the benefits of digital twins today with the platforms that we have, but successfully moving towards more open standards.
Any other questions, Tom?
Thank you so much. And I'm from China. My question is, in your lecture, you have mentioned that the data have been divided to many blocks for the different user cases. And I want to know how to divide the data, because in the different application, maybe someone want to model of the building, and someone want to use every layers of the building.
Yeah.
So I want to know how to do this. Thank you.
If you know the answer, I'm happy to hear it. Now, this is one of the challenges, of course, because as I said, we have a lot of different user needs for the same information model. And taking buildings, for instance, I know that the Swedish authorities have been looking into an information model for buildings, and it quite quickly becomes quite complex because you have a lot of different stakeholders that need different information. And what we need to do, I think, is to agree on an information model that's sort of good enough for all of these different needs, but also understand that in the process of the urban planning, there is a need for more and more detailed information. So we also need to agree on, I mean, the building in the early stages will not be as detailed. It doesn't need to be as detailed as in the construction phase. But we need to be able to work seamlessly through that, so that the outlines of the buildings that we have in the early stages will be the same in the detailed phases, but you'll have a lot of more level of detail inside. I'd say it's hard to answer how, but I think through conversation and discussion about needs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've got time for one more. Anybody online got a question? No? Thank you very much indeed.
Thank
Really,
you.
really, really thoughtful.